You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your lovely X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
And I'm Adam.
It's Zach, the bad boy of X-Men podcasting. Hey everyone.
Hey, what's up, lovers? Welcome to our very special Valentine's Day episode. Hope you're feeling sultry on this Monday morning.
I'm not. It's Tuesday.
It is for us, yeah.
It's just, I understand that some people will listen to this on Monday. Some people will save this. Some people will binge listen to this podcast, which is folks, that's a wild choice. You don't need to hear me that frequently.
I love when I hear about people doing that. That just makes it fills my soul with happiness that someone wants to listen to our voices for like hundreds of hours.
I just don't understand it, Adam. That's the thing. It's like, oh, that's great. I don't get it, but that's great.
That's okay. That's okay. But on this lovely week, we have our Valentine's Day episode because it's coming out the week of Valentine's Day.
And because it's Valentine's Day, we thought that we would bring out our Valentines for this episode. That is, of course, hi, Adam. You're my Valentine, I guess.
Hey, Zach, how you doing?
I'm spending Valentine's week with. Or at least Valentine's recording.
You're my podcasting Valentine this week, so, you know.
Did I already make a joke last week when we prepped this episode saying about how my wife we should have on, and then absolutely not, because my wife would not and will not read an X-Men comic because she's the most normal person?
You did say that you were going to ask her to read these issues, and then you immediately said, no, that would be a terrible idea because there's no way she's going to touch these.
I just don't think, if I care about my marriage, which I do, that I should make my wife read Robert Kirkman X-Men or Jason Aaron. Like, it's just like, that's not her vibe. Her vibe's watching Law and Order SVU with a bowl of ice cream.
Listen,
She's
that sounds like
aggressively normal. I love it. It's beautiful.
That sounds like a lovely evening. We are going to talk about 3 stories that are date night stories that come from the X-Men canon.
Which X-Men would have the best date night by eating a bowl of ice cream and watching Law and Order SVU?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe who's like chill? Who's like a chill
who
couple?
I'm gonna say it's Husk and Chamber.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
I think Husk needs like a 45-minute done in one, like quick solved mystery.
Yeah.
And like that's how she decompresses.
So we're standing Husk and Chamber, not Jubilee and Chamber in this scenario?
In this scenario, I don't know any. In this scenario, I'm not going to say that Husk and Angel because I don't think of them as a couple.
No.
I think of them as a mistake. And then Husk doesn't have other romantic interests.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, when the X-Men go on a date, like when we were picking the stories for this and I'm putting them on the list, I was like, what about that time that the Cyber-Eye attacked Opal and Bobby? I was like, does that count as a date? And I went and I looked at the issue. Yeah, they were at a record
store, right?
And they were on a date for literally like 1 page. And I was like, oh, we can't use this. There's no actual like date.
We should have done a 60s X-Men Zelda and what's her name?
Yep.
I forget what's the other one's name that's not Zelda?
Oh, I don't remember. It's Bobby's.
It's Beast. No, because Beast is.
We got to look this up.
It's so bothering me.
Listen,
I'm thinking about the Coffee a Go-Go.
Yeah.
Frequently.
There are.
Verna.
There we go. There are lots of Silver Age issues where they end up at the cafe or like they're quote unquote on a date, but it's not as the issues that we chose for this episode are very still like date centric. So I think we selected well.
Man, Verna hasn't shown up since X-Men The Hidden Years Volume 1, Number 2.
That's fine. Do we need Verna? I mean, is Verna
Yeah, kinda.
burning up the charts?
Can you imagine?
Tales?
Can you imagine Ben Percy, X-Force, cuts to Verna being like, "Can't believe I dated that guy. I used to screw this guy. He's doing several genocides."
I think you're giving Hank too much credit there. I don't know how successful he was in his romantic life before he graduated.
I think Verna was down to clown.
Okay.
You saw when like she went through a hippie phase later.
Maybe.
Like Verna was uptight by 60s standards, I assume.
So Hank got to take advantage of the free love situation, like the you know what I mean.
I just think kids will be kids. Just
Sure.
like, well, actually, not just like, in fact, exactly unlike the main couple that we're going to be talking about in our first story, Adam.
Yeah, this is an iconic one, I think.
It's Rogue and Gambit. It's X-Men 24 by PhoenixPiotr with pencils by Andy Kubert. Inks, it's Bill Sienkiewicz.
Well, you say that, but the first page does not credit him. It just says Andy Kubert and Company, which is odd because for eagle-eyed readers of X-Men who have seen Sienkiewicz's work over the years, it's pretty clear it's Sienkiewicz. You can kind of spot his line quality, but it's weird that I guess he didn't do the whole issue. Maybe Matt Ryan did some of it. Maybe Kubert inked himself on a couple pages, but no Sienkiewicz credit. Where's the love for Bill?
I mean, I got a lot of love for Bill.
Yeah, me too.
Tony Salmus doesn't have a lot of love for Bill, but that's inside baseball right there, baby. That's referencing a Facebook post.
Yeah, I think we've actually talked about that on air before.
It's because I'm constantly thinking about it.
My God. Yeah, I forgot who the guy was. Anyway, the first thing we got to talk about with this issue is this cover. This is an iconic cover. Andy Kubert has Gambit, Rogue jumping into his arms around, legs up in the air. It is just a very, very romantic cover. And I think this is a favorite of a lot of people, especially people who really got hooked on this couple in the 90s.
So they go on a date. Gambit takes them to Papa Gumbo's Cajun Cookout. Does Adam? I don't know Manhattan's restaurant districts all that well.
Yeah.
Why did Papa Gumbo's Cajun Cookout not look like a Cajun restaurant?
Well, it's interesting because Gambit is clearly psyched about this gumbo. Rogue is like kind of reacting to how spicy it is, but also spitting it out in her napkin. So I don't know how good it could possibly be.
I mean, listen, problem is Gambit, we all know Gambit a good cook. He gonna get you that etouffee. He gonna get you that jambalaya.
Yeah, I mean, the main entree here is questions upon questions. That why aren't you telling me the whole story? Well, why won't you let me in? And, the core tensions of this relationship. We have to remember that this date is actually the same date that they were trying to go on in the first 10 issues when they got abducted by Omega Red. So we're like
trying to go on that date. Then they were like, let's do a picnic date. Let's keep it easy.
That's right.
And then Bishop shows up and they have to throw pie at him. Then they finally now get to go on a date. And you know what? Rogue and Gambit are hecka charming in this. They're a good couple. I like them. I get why it works. Rogue wants to get down so bad. And Gambit, to his credit, fairly chill about the whole situation. Like, he is not animated series Gambit, who is constantly like, oh, let me get a kiss.
Yeah. We're going to take this step by step. It's okay. Maybe we don't even have to kiss.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It goes from the gumbo date to a nice carriage ride through the park where it's legitimately cute and romantic and not, you kind of expect Gambit to be a little sleazy and he's not. he's actually kind of being a real, gentleman, and it's very romantic.
Imagine Gambit if he wasn't written in the animated series by a actual pickup artist. Like, imagine the cultural cachet that Gambit would have at that point. Like, there's a point in this where, like, she makes a point about how, like, Gambit, you're not telling me your whole life story.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, the parts of his life story that she has seen are pretty weird and bad. And involve, like, wait, you killed her brother? That's your wife? There's sewers in New Orleans? There's a lot of stuff. But, and he's like, well, come on, Cher, you don't even tell me your name.
Yeah.
And she goes to the point to say, Remy, my name is, and he's like, listen, that's not important. I don't care about your past. I don't care about any of this. I care about you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like be with you, who you are today. And that is a really nice, affirming thing. And it makes, like, I get the appeal of Gambit and Rogue to a subset of people who were like reading comics at this time. Like,
oh yeah,
I get it, because I think Gambit got a bad vibe and a bad reputation from a lot of people. And maybe not all of it is deserved. Maybe some of it deserved Gambit.
Well,
but not all of it.
The flip side to what you're describing is that, is Gambit being a true gentleman by not asking these questions, or is he also playing like that he's hiding, these things away, and he really doesn't want Rogue to find out? So there's a little bit of that, but here it is really not played that way. It is played very, very straight, so that, you see that he genuinely cares about her, and it's reciprocated. So,
and Kubert's great in this. Like, we were talking last week about like 90s artists, and you were talking about Joe Mad,
mm-hmm.
and like, that's the problem, is that Joe Mad is so far from this. And this to me is like, this is where I think, when I think of like X-Men.
Yeah. I mean, he is the quintessential like post Jim Lee X-Men Volume 2 artist for sure. And this is also picking up on a couple other threads. We have Psylocke and Conan that are sort of jousting, realizing
what a weird thing for them. Because Wolverine just kind of shows up on their weird fight date.
And tells them, 2 bodies, 4 minds. Of course, you're not going to have it all figured out. And, this is before the reveal that Conan has the legacy virus. So, this is just Fabian just kind of letting it be chaotic.
Also being chaotic is when Fabian has Revenge walk through Betsy's room, and she's like, hey, you're white.
Right. What's with all this Asian stuff?
Why does your room look like a P.F. Chang's, Betsy?
Felt right. And
at the time, that's her line. Her line is, felt right at the time. Listen, we're all going through it right now. We're mixed up. At least Betsy's like, she has the wherewithal to step back, like, okay, yeah, now I see it. I see.
Yes, I see it.
This has some problematic elements to it.
Yep.
I can see why maybe I need to tone it back. I am not Japanese, actually.
No. Right. Other locations in this issue, we do have Professor X and Hank examining the legacy virus. You have Scott coming back from Canada after his encounter with Mr. Sinister. So big revelations. Scott thinks that, Strife is his son.
Well, so yes, he does. But you're not talking about the important other couple that gets reunited here.
Oh yeah, Scott
that they tell all this to. No, Moira and Banshee, buddy.
Oh yeah, I just skipped that completely. But
I know you did.
That's the other big one.
What's very funny is, as Scott's explaining this, Moira and Professor X are sitting there listening to this whole thing, and Professor X is like, huh, I've never heard of this Mr. Sinister. Sounds bad. He sounds bad, Scott.
Never heard of that guy.
I don't know if we can trust him. And it's just like, it's funny to go back.
It really is
funny
I had the
go back,
same
like,
exact reaction to that line. You know,
because
never met the guy.
telepathically, he's going over to Moira like, this freaking guy again. He's screwing things up. Come on, he's gonna be the death of all of us. Like
It's gonna mess it all up.
a problem. And she's like, I told you so. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do a Scottish. I'll go with the Scottish roll. I told you so, Charles. That's what she.
And
I'm gonna be a robot.
the other emotional, nice job.
Thank you.
The other emotional
I rolled
beat
the
is
R's
that,
on the robot a lot. I don't know if they do that.
that Jubilee is really in mourning after Ileana dies, has an interaction with Kitty about the Banff doll, and is, you know, being consoled by Wolverine. So there's a lot of, you know, emotional beats here as it's being advertised at the last page that we're all leading up to the 25th issue spectacular. You know, hologram is going to be on the cover, and it's going to be very exciting.
I mean, Fatal Attractions gets dark really quick, and they, like, a lot of stuff just happens to the X-Men real fast for a while. So I do like having a nice, quiet, one-off issue. And that's something that I feel this era of X-Men did pretty well.
I agree. I think they took breaks in between arcs and let it stew. You know, we actually got to see the characters interact in ways that there is no fight scene in this issue. There is no fight scene. There's no villain that shows up and has a monologue. It is just straight up character interactions that are really, really interesting and nice, that help develop the characters. It's nice.
This is just like a nice issue.
Yeah.
It's comforting. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I don't think every comic needs to be me hanging out with my friends, the X-Men. But I do think some comics need to be me hanging out with my friends, the X-Men.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Give me that with the lasers.
Uh-huh. Well, that being said, I think we both like this issue. Why don't we try and rank it on our big old list?
Yeah, so that's the thing. We do have a big old list. Everyone knows about the big old list. It's our big old list. We're ranking every X-Men story from best to worst, with the best being the House of X Powers 10 at number 1. And Adam, do you know how big this list is at this point?
Oh, what are we at? 870? Wow.
That's on the road to 900, which is almost the road to 1,000.
That's only 9 more episodes after this one. That's crazy.
It's not. 1,000 is not 9 away from...
For 900.
Yes.
Did you say road to 900 or did you say a road to 1,000?
I said we're on the road to 900, which is the road to 1,000.
Okay.
The 1K road, Adam, the 1K road's going to be like the victory lap of this podcast.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. No one should legally be allowed to read 1,000 X-Men comics.
Oh,
like,
man.
It's too many.
Yeah. And we've never actually calculated how many issues we've read on this. I'm sure it's already well over 1,000.
Easily, Adam.
Easily.
And that's the thing. I've read pretty much everything that's on this list, like, before.
Yeah.
I'm going through for round 2 on almost everything. You at least are able to sample some stuff for the first time every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I envy that.
Fresh eyes. It's a gift.
Number 200 on this list is X-Men Black Apocalypse. Number 400 on this list is Special Edition X-Men number 1. Number 600 on this list is that time that in Marvel Team Up where Havoc and Thor teamed up with Spider-Man to fight the Living Monolith. Number 800 is Legion, the Peter Milligan series that made me sad. And number 870 is the worst X-Men comic of all time, 2099 World of Tomorrow. Hey, this one pretty good.
It is, and I'm thinking it's definitely top 150 because I just think it really is just indicative of all of the great hallmarks of this era. I think it does a nice job.
Currently at 150 is All New X-Men number 37, which is a one-off story about Emma Frost and Jean Grey.
Mm-hmm. Training issue.
It's a training issue. Above that, a couple of spots up, is X Factor 27 Gifts. How do you feel about it compared to that?
I think we're in the right area, you know, like at 142 is Ladies' Night. I don't think I would put it above that. So I think we're kind of in the right area.
Yeah, I think this is better than the Jerry Duggan Cable, the first part of that. I would say probably not as good as Excalibur 61 at 145,
Truth and
which is
Consequence.
it's when they fight. Rachel fights Galactus.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
got that Alan Davis, baby. Or
Yeah.
not, yeah, it does. It does have Alan Davis.
It really
I'm
does.
smart.
That sounds like a great place for it. So let's put this at 146. That's
All
X-Men
right.
Volume 224 for all you lovers out there. And we've got some more dates. More of a fighter. There's a little bit more fighting, I feel like, in this next one. But still a lot of, not just one date, lots of dates. Why don't you tell us what this is, Zach, since this is one of your beloved series?
Okay, you're using that term pretty loosely, especially at 66 plus.
I know.
It's Ultimate X-Men 66 to 60 nice. Or I'm sorry, it's 66 to 68. We don't get the fun stuff in here. It's by Robert Kirkman. It's by Tom Rainey. It's called Date Night. This is the start of Robert Kirkman's run. And here's something that I'll say about Robert Kirkman. A guy who understands how to keep you buying the next issue of a comic better than nearly anybody. And I'm not saying that I enjoy his comics. I want to be clear. I'm saying that the man's really good at saying, well, I'll read another one. I'll see where this is going. Do you know how much of The Walking Dead I read after I knew I didn't like the series?
Yeah. It is kind of like potato chips, and
he's a real potato chip writer.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone on the record as saying not a big Kirkman fan in general, but this is a 3-issue arc that involves a variety of different combinations of characters, including a very long one-on-one with Professor X and the ultimate version of Lalandra, who represents a Earth-based Phoenix cult, essentially.
Okay, so yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this. Ultimate X-Men was so worried about doing any of the alien stuff, and I understand it because, like, I understand that it's weird that the most important X-Men story is a sci-fi story that was originally Claremont and Cockrum ripping off Star Wars, and then it kind of got away from Claremont, and now it's the most important thing to X-Men. And I get that if you are doing an ultimate version of that, maybe keep the weird aliens out of it. Like, it's just it's a hat on a hat. But I don't know if the Church of Shi'ar Enlightenment is exactly the best way to square that circle.
Well, speaking of squaring circles, it is revealed that the Phoenix was imprisoned, and that its prison is the planet Earth. So the core, the molten core of the Earth in the Ultimate Universe is the Phoenix, apparently. And they believe that the second coming is going to be Jean Grey. So they are willing to financially back the Xavier Institute so that they can have exclusive research rights on this young lady. I guess that's a thing.
It's a weird idea that Ultimate Laundrette has. So for these 3 issues, and boy, these are decompressed issues. They are Ultimate comics. For these 3 issues, her and Professor X are just having dinner, negotiating the terms of her funding the school because Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer associated with them, which is, here's the thing. I think it's absolutely right that Professor X is like, maybe actually making them a government-sponsored hit squad is a bad move. Making them a fundamental extremist religion hit squad.
Maybe also not good. Right?
It's just, you can try more than one idea, Charles.
Yeah. So while all that is happening, we're seeing a couple other downtime dates happen. You've got Scott and Jean going out. Jean is looking for adventure, spontaneity, and Jean is so horny in this. Scott is being his best boring gentleman, and it's not working for Jean until she really pushes him to say, "Hey, like let's make out. We didn't come here to watch this movie."
As someone who grew up in a very religious, repressed environment, especially around sexuality, I can relate to Scott Summers a heck of a lot in this. It's like, oh, I want to make sure. I don't know. I didn't think girls liked any of this stuff. This is just what guys are into, right?
Surprise,
I think
ladies
it's cute.
romance too.
It's weird that we take 3 issues to do this, but essentially, Scott and Jean's story is they do it.
Mhm.
That's it. That's their whole story in this.
Same for Bobby and Rogue, who had previously been broken up, but Rogue now has absorbed Ultimate Gambit powers. So she is
No, she has absorbed Ultimate Gambit.
Oh, completely. Right.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have any of her issues with touch, and it's also implied that they get it on. So that's 2 for 2. There's an unfortunate kind of thing about Kurt, Ultimate Nightcrawler, and Colossus going to visit Ultimate Dazzler in the hospital.
So let me set the record in general. Ultimate Nightcrawler never worked. Like, they tried to make him like he was a scared kid who was tied into Weapon X, like a lot of the characters were, and he never had the fun of Nightcrawler.
No.
And then as like X2 played up his religion pretty heavily, they were hitting that in the comics pretty hard, which meant that, well, let's see. We have one of the things they're doing in Ultimate Universe is Colossus was gay. That's great. But what does his religious best friend think about this in 2006? And I'm not saying that if there was a heavily religious person in 2006 and they found out that one of their friends was gay, that they may not also have an incredibly homophobic reaction to it. I think that's both reasonable and normal. And I just don't think you should write my friend Nightcrawler that way.
I was just about to say that.
That's the trick. That's the trick. It's like, I get it. I do get it.
Yeah.
But this is my friend Nightcrawler, who is a good boy.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate pairing. It's not that it's I'll give Kirkman credit. He's actually trying to, write something that's pretty positive for the Colossus character. It's just using Nightcrawler is just kind of unfortunate. And then
everything else that happens to Ultimate Nightcrawler is way worse. Like, he becomes Adam. If you think that this story ends with Kurt saying, actually, I shouldn't be homophobic.
No,
anymore.
I know
Thank
he
you
didn't
for
learn
teaching me a
anything.
valuable lesson.
He's learned
it's
nothing.
Way worse. It gets like frustratingly worse.
It's unfortunate.
Colossus just does say, Kurt, you're not my type. And
yeah,
that's fun. It's fun that it's like he's like, Kurt, look, no, like he says, I mean, I think the skin's kind of cute, but like, have you seen me? You're not my type, Kurt. I'm sorry.
Our last date for date night is Logan and
wait,
Storm.
one more thing about the Kurt and Colossus.
Yeah.
They go and see Dazzler in the hospital, and again, this is punk rock, like 9 Inch Nails Dazzler,
right?
And Nightcrawler is so upset that she wanted to kiss Angel instead of him because I thought she would understand that a devil can be beautiful. Or something like this.
right.
And it's like, shut up, Kurt.
Yeah.
You're being weird. And I don't like this side of you.
No, he's super disappointed that he's not going alone because Colossus offers to tag along. And it's really creepy.
Everything about Nightcrawler in this is like, it's making me, I'm not getting the vibes that I want from my friend Kurt.
Yeah. The last date that we have is Logan and Storm, who hit the pool hall, get into some fights, and then run into Sabretooth, who claims that he is Logan's son so that he can take a chunk of Logan as a souvenir. For what? Why did he take the chunk? I forget.
He goes to Professor Abraham Cornelius.
That's who it is.
You know him.
Yeah, he brings him back to Weapon X. Okay.
Yeah, he
forgot.
Does that, and then Cornelius like 30 issues later does a thing with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like becomes mutated by it.
There's also a bit with Shield going after Elliot
An
Boggs.
unnamed character, yeah, or a character we don't need to worry about.
The reality warper Elliot Boggs.
Do you know, here's the thing. I do believe Elliot Boggs has several more appearances in Robert Kirkman's X-Men, and I'm not paying attention to those.
That's totally fine.
I don't need to.
Okay. I mean, that's not really why we're here anyway. You know, we're here for the dates.
He's not fun. He's not fun or important. He's just a weirdo.
Yeah.
This is a weird thing. Like he's like Storm and Wolverine, are they dating? I don't think they're actually dating.
I don't think they are. I think
they're just being like biker
pals.
people together.
Yeah, they're just enjoying, some time out and beating people up during pool games, and that sounds like a good time to them.
Shadowcat does go on a date with Spider-Man, and then he has homework or something. So she
yeah. So I think this is very much a comic of its time. Like that X-Men issue we just talked about is definitely indicative of its era. But it also still feels very like universally X-Men in a way that doesn't feel constrained to the 90s. This definitely feels.
Oh, this is very 2006. And I'm of two minds of that. Like, I think I've said on this podcast before, and if not, I've said it in real life, and that's really what's more important. That I don't mind if things are dated in that they feel like they could have only been from a certain era, because most things in life are ethereal and aren't meant to be long lasting, and I'm okay if something is a monument to that moment. And I do when we were talking about Runaways, that's what it was. We were talking about Runaways.
We did, yeah.
And this does feel very 2006. I just also don't want to go back to that feeling. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what comics were doing in 2006. I'm done with this now, Robert.
Yeah, it very much feels like Kirkman is trying to translate a lot of what Bendis was doing with Ultimate Spider-Man into the staging of these storylines and bouncing between them. And it's okay. It's fine. I didn't have a bad time reading these comics by any stretch. I think Tom Rainey's art actually works pretty well for these stories. I've seen him in a little bit more of a stylish mode. Like 90s Tom Rainey mode is a little bit different than what we're seeing here. And I've seen work that's much more rushed from Tom Rainey that is not nearly as good as what I'm seeing here. So I think this is kind of like middle of the road. He's doing a nice job telling the story, and it's fine. It's a lot of talking heads.
It's a lot of talking heads. It's fine.
Yeah.
You want to rank this one?
Yeah, let's, because this doesn't have, I think, the staying power of what we were just talking about.
It really doesn't.
It also doesn't have the what in the world is like that what the heck ultimate kind of feeling that we get from a lot of Ultimate stories too.
So where should we if you're looking at the list right now, I don't know. It's not as good as Gambit, Tombstone Blues, which is at 500.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's fine. That's a good starting point for us here. Is this better or worse than Ultimate X-Men The Tempest, which is 46 to 49?
It's not as good as The Tempest.
Yeah, I don't think it is. 575 is Colossus Bloodline. That's probably better.
I mean, I think we're sniffing at the right area here.
Yeah,
I would put it below New Mutants 98 to 100 though.
What about Enemy of the State? We were just talking about off air. We were talking
off air. We were talking about Enemy of the State.
Yeah,
for reasons that will become apparent. I mean, Enemy of the State's got better art than this.
Yeah, I would agree.
JR is cooking.
So now we're getting down to it. Like 600 Dazzler 27 to 28. I guess
which one's Dazzler 27? You think I remember random issues of
I don't
Dazzler?
think
You're out of your gourd.
I don't think that's Rogue stuff. So, it's got to be something Rogue related, right?
It is. It's when her and Lois are traveling cross country.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And they fight the Sisterhood.
Yeah.
Let's say it's better than that, but it's probably worse than Ghost Box from Astonishing X-Men. Probably worse than Collision from X-23 Dakin.
Okay, so this is going to be our new 600.
Let's make it our 600.
All right, great. You know, it's if you're reading Ultimate X-Men, it's certainly not a terrible arc, but it's just doesn't have the same, memorability that the other did. All right.
Wild that this is what he opens with, right?
Oh, this is his first arc. Yeah, pretty wild.
That's insane. Not the first arc is the last story we're covering. This is a tie-in to Avengers vs. X-Men. It's called My Dinner with the Phoenix.
Wolverine and the X-Men number 14.
It's Jason Aaron and Jorge Molina. Hey, this is not even the only dinner date with the Phoenix that happens during AVX. It's in fact the worst of the two.
Yes, and we've covered the other one, if I'm not mistaken, because
have we done?
Well,
isn't
that part of?
No, we did it as
we did it as part of an Emma and Scott episode, I think.
We might have. Who's to say?
Yeah,
who's to say? It's not like we write all this down.
Well, we do, but
that's the joke. That's the joke.
Yeah. So Wolverine and the X-Men 14 involves Piotr coming down to the Jean Grey school and demanding essentially that Kitty go on a date with him. And
hey, Adam, can I real quick? I sent you in the chat. Can
you
pull up the solicit image?
Oh, very weird. Why is it pixelated?
Because quote, we can't say much or we'll spoil the event of the summer. Kitty Pryde on a date with
Question mark. Okay.
And I get that like the Phoenix 5 part wasn't available yet. But couldn't they just quickly have Nick Bradshaw redraw Colossus like in not Phoenix clothes?
I mean, it seems
sell that as a variant?
Yeah, it stands to reason that you could. Also, not a big surprise given that the pixels are all Colossus metal colors. Like, it's all gray, white, and black.
Because here's the thing. I look at this and say, okay, who could this be? Well, it's Kitty Pryde, and it's a large gray man, so probably Colossus. But it could be Rockslide. Oh, no, Rockslide's in the background. Never mind, it's Colossus. Rockslide literally right over there, just so you know. No, it's Colossus, folks.
So over the years, I think, I've heard a lot of fans really badmouth Colossus. And if you need ground zero for disliking Colossus, there's plenty of examples before this. But this particular issue really, really makes it hard to like Colossus because not only is he in Phoenix 5 God mode, but he's like about as oppressive a date as he possibly can imagine. And he is demanding not only that Kitty go out with him, but there's almost a proposal here. He is like completely out of his mind.
He's out of his mind, and you could write it as, well, it's the Phoenix, and they're trying to play it off as, well, the Phoenix Force. It's actually making him be like this. And like, okay, I get it, but I don't like it. Like, here's the thing. I don't know that you have to break Colossus to do all this, you know? Like, what are we gaining from this? I don't know. Well, I find it weird that like writers want to lean into the fact that Colossus and Kitty shouldn't have really dated because they were of a slightly inappropriate age gap at the time, and they resolved that off screen and said, actually, wait, no, we should break them up. And he gets beat up for it in a great issue, and then he learns his lesson. And then we keep coming back to, well, look, he was a terrible guy. Look how he was taking advantage of her. And he wasn't if you're reading the stories. Like, if you read the comics, that's not what was happening. Chris Claremont and Jim Shooter realized, the optics of this are not great. We need to fix this one.
Yeah, I think, what this suggests is that Colossus is kind of drunk on power. And these extremely negative parts of his personality are getting amplified to really gross levels. The date itself, I think, is pretty visually memorable in that it takes place in a parted sea with fish flopping around and the waves on either side of them just kind of like being held off by Colossus's mighty god powers. But he looks straight up insane. So
He does. But then when he's describing what the Phoenix Five are doing, and this is the core problem with AVX, he says, "We have made gardens of the desert, fed the hungry, clothed the naked. We have eradicated warfare from the face of the earth. Anything we dream, we accomplish." And that sounds pretty good, all things considered. Like, the Phoenix Five are not doing a bad job. Namor got out of pocket a little bit and wanted revenge.
yeah, I mean, that's always been one of the issues with this, is that even after they become the Phoenix Five, they're doing good things, right? But
Like, unambiguously good.
yeah, here's where it gets dicey, is what he says immediately after that. And he says, anything we desire, we soon have. And the implication is that if Kitty does not succumb to him and is going to be his partner in his godhood, well, you know, would be a real shame if, somebody broke the Jean Grey school, would be a shame
That
if we just
that
killed
part's-
everybody who lives here. And
that part's not cool.
yeah, that's essentially where this goes. So there is obviously, some things that the Phoenix Five are doing, and you're like, oh wow, this is actually some pretty good things that could happen for the Earth. And at the same time, it's like, oh well, actually, he's kind of out of his mind and terrifying.
Honestly, we can come back to it, but I don't actually think Colossus is the most out of his mind and weird and bad person on a date in this entire comic even.
Well,
And I'm not making excuses for Colossus. I'm just saying
we do get a very creepy reveal in the midst of this that is played for laughs. We have known for the length of this story so far that Toad has been harboring feelings for Husk. And Zach, would you like the pleasure of telling us what we cut to at a certain point in this issue?
Well, at one point, they're at the Jean Grey school. They are having a meeting, and Kitty points and says, "Husk, would you mind going to the?" And then you see a balloon from off panel. "I'm over here. That's just some old skin. Sorry, I'll clean it up." Toad, the janitor, says, "No, I got it. Let me clean it up." And then it cuts to him having her dressed up in a Southern Belle outfit, having a tea party, where he says, "More tea, Miss Guthrie?" "Why, thank you, Mortimer. Don't mind if I do." It's weird, and it's also weirder that Jason Aaron does play this later as, actually, she thinks it's sweet that he likes him so much, that he makes a weird dead skin thrown to her.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the locust husk that's sitting in the chair. There's also literal heads and faces posted on the wall.
Yes, we're supposed to think that Husk is having this is supposed to be a sign that Husk is okay with this with Toad. It's a sign that she's not doing so well, but that plot never really actually resolves in any sort of satisfying way.
Nope.
So weird to set all that up and then have it just be, and then they dated for a little bit.
Yeah. Colossus does come to his senses, as he is about to really start the destruction. I believe he burns Kitty's hand, and she screams. And, he says the Phoenix line, I am fire and life incarnate, now and forever. And you sense that he's on the verge of doing something really terrible, and then he stops and realizes, oh God, I'm terrible. I need to get out of here.
Nope. This one, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out, guys. My bad.
Yep. I'm gonna go walk in the Russian snowy wilderness for a while because I did a bad. This issue's a lot. I don't think that Jorge Molina is up to as good as Jorge Molina gets.
Yeah, that's weird because I like Molina.
Yeah.
And he was not where he should have been on this one.
He's just not like fully developed here, and the coloring also is kind of off-putting. Everything kind of looks illuminated from within. It's a very shiny coloring that I just don't like. I don't think it serves the story very well. Everything
It
kind of
doesn't.
looks glossy and fluorescent. So that the colors are Maury Hollowell. Well, I'm not super familiar with, but this issue is just okay. I think conceptually it's a fun idea because of, it's Phoenix Colossus, but it really is pushing the envelope on, how terrible Colossus is, which can work,
It can.
but it doesn't make for an
can.
enjoyable read, I don't think.
Well, okay, here's the thing. And I know world's number one Ben Percy defender over here. I get it. Colossus is bad in Ben Percy's X-Force, and
Mhm.
he is not innocent by any means. Like, there is the open question of how much of what he did was Colossus and how much of it was the Chronicler.
Right.
Like, and I think that's a fun, good question to bring up for the character, but also adds a bit more pathos to it. Like, Percy doesn't try and break the toy.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that a lot other writers could maybe use. If, like, look, the problem is, yeah, you could do one good story and have the character broken if no one ever had to use it again. But he's on the cover of Giant Size X-Men #1, so
Right.
you can't. It's here's the characters on the cover of Giant Size X-Men #1 you can break. It's Thunderbird, and they did that one.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them you can't.
No. Maybe Sunfire?
Sunfire's not on the cover.
Oh, that's right. Right.
I had to look at the print of the cover I have on my wall just to make sure. I was like, no, I don't think Sunfire's on that.
Well, he does quit, so we'll give him some credit. So I think this is probably, is this the worst of the three this week? I'm not like super in love with this issue, even though I think it's probably a little bit more high concept.
I think this is probably better than Date Night.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
How much better? I don't know. Like, I don't think this is better than Extreme X-Men Expose.
Okay, and that's at
544.
544. Okay, so we're somewhere in the lower 500s here.
Actually, no, this is better than First X-Men, though.
Okay, and First X-Men is at
547.
547. Okay, all right, so we're in the 500 to 550 range.
And I feel good about that, because right now 550 is Stairs, and this is objectively a better comic than Stairs.
Okay, I think that's fair. But we're probably in the right area. At 541, we have A plus X, 13 to 18, Captain America plus Cyclops. What do you think about it compared to that?
This is probably better than that, but I don't know if this is better than 537 Uncanny X-Men Survival of the Fittest, which is the start of the Cullen Bunn Uncanny, which has just not the art you want it to have. But I think has a little bit more going on story-wise.
I think that's totally fair. If we gave the edge to maybe What If 43, which is right below that, though, because that does have that fun Kingpin thing that's in it, which I kind of like.
Sure.
Okay.
That's all I could remember. It's like, there's a Kingpin thing in there that's kind of okay.
Yeah,
that's all I
that
remember
being
from
fun.
that comic.
All right, so this is
better than Aurora Before the Storm, though. So
yes. All right, so this is going to be our new 539 Wolverine and the X-Men #14. And Zach, that was a very lovely date. Thank you so much for taking me out. I appreciate that.
Listen, I have to be out of town for Valentine's Day this year.
Oh,
so this is all the dates I'm getting. I have to go to Adam. Guess how I get to spend my Valentine's dinner at a corporate awards ceremony.
Ugh, gosh. Hope they give you chocolates. I don't know. How does that work?
Well, they did last year. And I brought to my wife, and then she's like, "Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Zach." I was like, "Yeah, they gave it to me at work," and she's like, "You didn't have to say that. You could have said you just picked this up." I was like, "Fair." So yeah, no, this is the extent of my Valentine's dates because I'll be in a different state from my wife, which I can't imagine,
What?
honestly, being cross country and so long distance. It sounds
Don't tease me.
rough.
Don't tease me.
I love you, bud.
I
I'm
love you
sorry.
too. So
Oh,
for whatever listeners, whatever you're doing for Valentine's Day, we hope you enjoy it. If you're anti-Valentine's Day, we still hope you enjoyed this episode.
I hope you enjoyed the day, regardless. Like,
Yeah,
if you're
hope it's a good
anti-Valentine's
Wednesday.
Day, is it Wednesday? I don't know. Here's the
I think it's a
here's
Wednesday.
the secret.
Is it a Wednesday?
Here's the secret. Here's the secret. Here's the secret. I already ordered flowers like a month and a half ago,
Nice.
so I don't have to remember when the actual day of Valentine's Day is. I can remember day of when I look at the calendar and be good.
Good job. Good job. It's is
Wednesday?
a Wednesday.
Great.
Yeah. It is the Wednesday after this comes out.
Great.
Oh, hey, good news to all of you folks who couldn't get on Blue Sky because you couldn't get one of those silly invite codes. There's no more invite codes. So come on over to Blue Sky and follow Adam Rec. It's a good time. You can also follow on Instagram at Adam Rec. And if you're still on Twitter, Arthur Stacy. And Zach, what do we have cooking for next week?
Next week, we have cooking something that our patrons don't even know that they want.
Ooh.
Because that's the thing, Adam. We have some great Patreons on patreon.com/battletheatom. And if folks want to join them, they can for $5. If you liked this episode and then have an idea, it's like, actually, you should cover this story. And then you give us $5 and then we cover that story as well as two silly ones. We do a silly one twice. And because I felt like it, I felt like doing 3 silly ones. Actually, we thought I was going to be gone and we were going to skip a week, and then we didn't. So we had an open episode, and I was like, actually, I got this. We're doing exclusively, and this was my thought process, upsettingly wild stories from Wolverine Volume 3.
It sounds like a really good time. I can't wait to record that episode with you.
Adam, I can't wait for 5 minutes from now after I go get my water and we record back to back because, yes, I will be gone all next week, like I had previously said. But until then, folks, this has been Val the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!